His rejection hit like a blade to the throat. Cold. Final. You're nothing to me. Rafe's words sliced through the warehouse air, each syllable deliberate. His breath was hot against my ear, but his voice, ice. I didn't flinch, couldn't afford to. Not with 20 pairs of eyes watching from the shadows, waiting to see if the Nero of the Vicini family would gut me where I stood. The warehouse reeked, gun oil mixed with rain-soaked concrete and something metallic I didn't want to name. Blood, probably. Old or new, I couldn't tell. Men shifted in the darkness, wolves dressed in expensive suits, their hands resting too casually near their waistbands. One command from him, and I'd disappear. No body, no questions. But I wasn't here to die. I was here for answers. My father, Antonio Lombardi, vanished 3 months ago. No goodbye, no warning, just debts and enemies circling like vultures over his empty chair. I was 18 when Milan's underbelly swallowed me whole. Learned to survive by keeping my head down and my knife close. Trust no one. Love even less. Then I heard the whispers. Antonio had crossed the Vicini family years ago. A betrayal buried so deep that even mentioning it could get you killed. And Rafe controlled everything. The ports, the deals, the deaths. If anyone knew where my father went, it was him. So I lied my way into his world, posed as a courier for Vincenzo Ricci, Rafe's biggest rival, slipped through his security with forged papers and a story rehearsed 100 times. I thought I was clever. Thought I could get close, grab what I needed, and vanish. I was wrong. The first time I saw him was in his private club, buried beneath a centuries-old cathedral. Velvet curtains hid sins I didn't want to imagine. The air was thick with cigar smoke and expensive cologne. He sat at the back, alone, a glass of grappa untouched on the table. The room fell silent when I walked in. His eyes locked onto mine. Midnight storms. That's what they looked like. Dark, violent, capable of drowning you without warning. What do you want? His voice was low, laced with threat and boredom, like I was already wasting his time. I forced confidence into my stride, leaned in, handed him the envelope I'd been told to deliver. Our fingers brushed. Electric. I froze. He didn't pull away immediately. His thumb traced the vein on my wrist. Slow, deliberate. The touch was intimate in a way that made my breath catch. My pulse hammered against his fingertips, betraying me. You think I don't see through you? His gaze stripped me bare. I could smell his cologne now, leather and smoke, expensive and suffocating. He grabbed my wrist then, not hard, but firm, pulled me closer across the table until our faces were inches apart. Who sent you? Ricci, I whispered. The lie tasted bitter. His jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought he'd snap my wrist. Instead, he let go and stood, towering over me like a judge about to pass sentence. Leave, before I make you regret it. Rejection without mercy, but his voice cracked, just a hair, just enough to plant doubt in my chest. I left, but the questions burned hotter than ever. Why push me away? What was he hiding? And that touch, did it mean something, or was I just another piece on his board? I should have stayed away, should have taken the warning and run, but I didn't. I spent the next 2 weeks shadowing his world, watching from alleys as he orchestrated deals in back rooms. Men knelt before him. Women averted their eyes. He was a king in hell, untouchable and feared. But alone, late at night in his penthouse, I saw the cracks. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I watched him stand in the dark, glass in hand, staring at nothing. A man haunted. By what? Loss? The violence that forged him? Or something deeper? I needed to know. So I broke into his safe house. It was reckless. Stupid. But desperation makes you do stupid things. needed files on my father, proof of what happened, proof he was still alive. I was halfway through his desk when I heard the door open. You again. My heart stopped. Rafe stood in the doorway, rain dripping from his coat. His eyes were darker than I remembered, angrier. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pinned me against the wall, his body pressed close, heat radiating through the soaked fabric. I didn't fight, just stared up, defiant, even though my knees felt weak. You have a death wish? His breath was ragged, like he'd run here. I need answers. My voice came out steadier than I felt. His hand slid to my neck, not to choke, but to hold. His thumb rested against my pulse, feeling it race. You'll destroy us both, he murmured. Our lips were inches apart. I could taste the rain on his breath. Confusion twisted inside me, want clashing with fear, logic screaming to run while something darker whispered stay. Then he shoved me away. Get out! Another rejection, but this time his hands were shaking. I stumbled toward the door, but before I left, I turned back. My father, Antonio Lombardi, you know what happened to him. Rafe's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, guilt, maybe both. Your father made choices, he said quietly, and choices have consequences. Is he alive? Silence. Get out. I left, but I knew I'd be back, because that flicker in his eyes told me everything. Rafe knew my father, knew what happened, and whatever secret tied them together. It tied me to him too. Blood ties, hidden betrayals. A past I didn't understand but could feel pulling me deeper. I wasn't just looking for answers anymore. I was looking for redemption. His, mine, maybe both. And in the darkness of Milan's streets, walking away from the man who rejected me twice, I realized something terrifying. I wanted him. Not just for answers, not just for revenge. I wanted him in a way that would destroy me, and maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what he needed. 3 days later, they came for me. I was walking home from my shift at the bar, another dead-end job in a city full of them, when a black Mercedes pulled up beside me. Tinted windows, no plates. The back door opened. Get in. I recognized the voice. Marco. Rafe's right hand. A man whose smile was more dangerous than most people's threats. I could have run. Should have, probably. But running would have only delayed the inevitable. If Rafe wanted me, he'd find me. Better to face it now. I slid into the back seat. Marco sat across from me, perfectly tailored suit, perfectly empty expression. The car smelled like new leather and old violence. He wants to see you, Marco said simply. Tell him I'm not interested. Marco's smile widened. That's not how this works. The drive took 40 minutes, out of the city, into the hills where the old families kept their estates, walls and gates, security everywhere, the kind of wealth that didn't advertise itself because it didn't need to. We stopped in front of a villa that looked like it belonged in a Renaissance painting. All stone and ivy and windows that watched you like eyes. Marco opened my door. He's waiting in the study. 2nd floor. Don't make him wait long. I stepped out. The night air was cold, biting through my thin jacket. I could have refused, could have demanded they take me home. But something told me this was my only chance. If I walked away now, I'd never get answers. Never know what happened to my father, never see Rafe again. And God help me, I wanted to see him again. Inside, the villa was exactly what I expected. Old money. Art on the walls that probably cost more than my entire life. Marble floors that echoed with each step. I found the study. Knocked once. Come in. His voice sent a shiver down my spine. I opened the door. Rafe sat behind a massive oak desk, papers spread in front of him, He didn't look up immediately, just finished whatever he was reading, signed something, then set his pen down with deliberate precision. When he finally met my eyes, I felt it again. That pull. Electric. Dangerous. Sit. It wasn't a request. I sat in the chair across from him, forcing myself to stay calm, to not show how fast my heart was racing. "You've been digging," he said, not a question, a statement. "I want answers. Answers are expensive. I don't have money." His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "I know exactly what you have. Elena Lombardi, 21, orphaned at 18 when your father disappeared. You work 3 jobs, live in a studio apartment in the worst part of Milan. You have 700 euros in your bank account and a kitchen knife under your pillow." My blood ran cold. He leaned forward, elbows on the desk. "I know you've been following me. I know you broke into my safe house. I know you posed as one of Ricci's couriers, which, by the way, is an excellent way to get yourself killed by both of us." "Then why am I still alive?" His eyes darkened. "Because I haven't decided what to do with you yet." Silence stretched between us. Heavy. Suffocating. "Your father," Rafe continued, voice dropping lower, "stole from my family. 3 million euros, laundered it through a shipping company and disappeared. He left behind debts, enemies, and a daughter who has no idea how much danger she's in." My throat tightened. "He wouldn't." "He did." Rafe's voice was hard, final. "And now Ricci thinks you know where the money is. So does the Corsini family. So does half of Milan's underworld. You're a target, Elena. You just don't know it yet." I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. "So, what do you want from me?" Rafe stood, walked around the desk, stopped directly in front of me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. "I want you to work for me." "Work for you?" "Your father left you in debt to me. 3 million euros. You'll never pay it back working in bars. But you're smart, resourceful. You got past my security twice. That takes skill." "I'm not a criminal." His hand cupped my chin, forcing me to hold his gaze. "You already are. The moment you walked into my club, you entered my world. There's no going back." His touch was firm but not painful. Still, I felt trapped. Owned. "And if I refuse?" His thumb traced my jaw, slow, deliberate. "Then I hand you over to Ricci. Let him extract whatever he thinks you know. It won't be pleasant." Fear spiked through me, but beneath it, something else stirred. Anger, defiance. "That's not a choice. That's coercion. Call it what you want." He released me and stepped back. "But you'll accept, because you want answers about your father, and because, deep down, you know you don't belong in that world anymore. You've been surviving. I'm offering you a chance to live." He was right. I hated that he was right. What would I do? Administrative work, record keeping, you'd manage certain accounts, handle communications, stay close. Close to you. Yes. The word hung between us, loaded with implications I wasn't ready to unpack. "I need time to think." "You have 60 seconds. "That's not 50 seconds. Panic clawed at my chest. This was insane. Working for the Mafia? For him? But what choice did I have? If what he said was true, and I believed him, I was already dead. Ricci would find me. The Corsini family would find me. At least with Rafe, I had protection. Answers. Maybe even a way out. 30 seconds. Fine. The word tasted like surrender. "I'll do it." Rafe's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Satisfaction? Relief? "Good. You'll start tomorrow. Marco will bring you back here at 9. Don't be late." He returned to his desk, already dismissing me. But I didn't move. Why? The question slipped out before I could stop it. He looked up. Why what? Why help me? You could have just killed me or handed me over. Why offer me this? For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then so quietly I almost missed it, he said, because I owed your father a debt, and because letting you die would be a waste. It wasn't a real answer, but it was all I'd get. I stood, walked to the door, but before I left, I turned back. My father? Is he alive? Rafe's jaw tightened. I don't know. But you have an idea. Leave, Elena. Another dismissal, another wall between us. But as I walked out, I realized something. He'd called me by my name, not girl, not Lombardi's daughter. Elena. And somehow that felt more dangerous than anything else he'd said. Marco picked me up at 8:50 the next morning. I hadn't slept. Spent the whole night staring at my ceiling, wondering what the hell I'd agreed to. Working for the Mafia, for Rafe. It felt surreal, like I'd signed a contract in blood and didn't bother reading the terms. But when Marco's Mercedes pulled up, I got in without hesitation. Sleep well? He asked, that dangerous smile playing on his lips. Like a baby. Liar. The villa looked different in daylight. Less ominous, almost beautiful. Gardens stretched behind it, manicured and green. You'd never guess what kind of business happened inside these walls. Marco led me through a side entrance, down a hallway lined with portraits of stern-faced men. Ancestors, probably. The Vocini bloodline traced back centuries. Old power, old money, old sins. We stopped at a heavy wooden door. Your office, Marco said, pushing it open. I stepped inside. It was nothing like I expected. Not cold or clinical. Actually, nice. A large desk, bookshelves, a window overlooking the gardens, a laptop already set up and running. Rafe will be in shortly to explain your duties. Marco checked his watch. Try not to touch anything you're not supposed to. He left. I stood there, taking it all in. This was real. I was really doing this. The door opened behind me. Settling in? Rafe's voice made me turn. He wore a black shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Casual for him, but still devastating. How was it fair for someone so dangerous to look like that? It's nice, I managed. Don't get comfortable. He walked to the desk, pulled up something on the laptop. You're here to work, not decorate. His tone was all business now. Cold, professional. Nothing like the man who'd touched my face last night. These are the accounts you'll manage. He gestured to spreadsheets on the screen. Numbers, dates, names I didn't recognize. Everything is coded. You'll learn the system. Memorize it. One mistake could cost lives. Whose lives? Ours. He spent the next hour explaining. The Vocini family controlled shipping routes from Genoa to Naples. Legitimate businesses mixed with not-so-legitimate ones. My job was to track transactions, flag discrepancies, manage communications with partners. It was complicated, intricate, and definitely illegal. Questions? He asked when he finished. Just one. Why me? You have people who could do this. I have people I don't trust. His eyes locked onto mine. You, I can control. Control. There was that word again. And if I screw up? Don't. He left without another word. I spent the rest of the day learning the system. It was overwhelming, but I picked it up quickly. Numbers made sense to me. Always had. By evening, I'd flagged 3 discrepancies and sent Marco a report. He appeared in my doorway an hour later. Boss is impressed. Good. Don't let it go to your head. He's still deciding if you're worth the risk. Before I could respond, He tossed a black box onto my desk. From Rafe. Wear it tomorrow. Then he was gone. I opened the box. Inside was a dress. Designer. Expensive. Elegant and dangerous at the same time. Deep emerald green, the kind of dress that made a statement. A note was tucked beneath it. You'll need this tomorrow night. Don't embarrass me. Tomorrow night, I didn't have time to wonder. Marco was back at my apartment at 7 the next evening, waiting while I changed. The dress fit perfectly. Too perfectly. Like Rafe had known my exact measurements. He probably did. The thought sent a shiver through me. Marco drove me back to the villa, but this time we didn't stop. Just kept going. Deeper into the hills until we reached another estate. Bigger, grander, lights blazing from every window. Where are we? The Corsini estate, monthly gathering, all the families attend. My stomach dropped. I can't. You can. You will. Stay close to Rafe. Don't talk to anyone unless he tells you to. And for God's sake, don't drink anything you didn't pour yourself. We pulled up to the entrance. Valet opened my door. I stepped out into a world I didn't belong in. Luxury cars everywhere, men in tuxedos, women dripping in diamonds. This wasn't just wealth. This was power. The kind that bought countries and crushed lives without blinking. Marco led me inside. The ballroom was stunning. Chandeliers, marble floors, a string quartet playing something classical. People mingled, smiling, laughing, like they weren't all criminals. Then I saw him. Rafe stood near the bar, talking to an older man I didn't recognize. He looked up as I entered. Our eyes met across the room. He didn't smile, didn't acknowledge me. Just watched as I walked toward him, Marco at my side. When I reached him, he handed me a glass of champagne. Elena, this is Don Corsini, our host. The older man studied me with sharp eyes. Lombardi's daughter. I heard you joined the Vocini family. Interesting choice. Not much of a choice, I said before I could stop myself. Don Corsini laughed. Honest. I like that. Your father was honest too, right up until he stole from everyone. My jaw tightened. Rafe's hand pressed against the small of my back, gentle, but a warning. Elena is proving quite valuable, Rafe said smoothly. She has her father's head for numbers, without his bad habits. Let's hope. Don Corsini raised his glass. To new alliances. We toasted. I forced the champagne down. The rest of the night blurred. Rafe introduced me to family heads, business partners, people whose names I'd only heard in whispers. Each one studied me like I was a puzzle they couldn't solve. And through it all, Rafe's hand never left my back. Possessive, claiming. I should have hated it, should have pulled away, but I didn't, because in this room full of predators, he was the only thing keeping me safe. Later, when the crowd thinned, Rafe led me to a balcony. The night air was cool, quiet. You did well, he said. I didn't do anything. You survived. That's enough. I turned to face him. Why did you really bring me here? His eyes were unreadable in the moonlight. Because they needed to see you with me, under my protection. Otherwise, you're fair game. So I'm what? Your property now? If that's what keeps you alive, yes. Anger flared. I didn't agree to be owned. You agreed the moment you walked into my club. His voice dropped, dangerous and soft. Everything you do now reflects on me. Every word, every move. You're mine, Elena, whether you like it or not. He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel his heat. And the sooner you accept that, the easier this will be. My heart hammered. I wanted to push him away, wanted to scream that he didn't own me, that I wasn't some piece on his board, but looking into his eyes, I saw the truth. He was right. I was his now, for better or worse. And God help me, part of me didn't mind. 2 weeks into my new life, everything changed. I'd fallen into a routine, work in the villa during the day, learn the business, track the money. At night, Rafe would sometimes appear in my office, checking my progress, asking questions. We didn't talk about anything personal, didn't address the tension that hummed between us every time we were in the same room. It was easier that way. Until my phone rang at 3 a.m. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Elena Lombardi? Who is this? San Rafael Hospital. Your brother was brought in an hour ago. Motorcycle accident. He's in surgery. My brother, Luca. I hadn't seen him in 2 years, not since he'd left Milan, chasing dreams of becoming a professional writer. We'd fought before he left, said things we couldn't take back, but he was still my brother. I'll be right there. I threw on clothes, called a cab. My hands shook the entire ride. The hospital was chaos. Bright lights, antiseptic smell, people rushing everywhere. I found the surgical wing, demanded answers from the nurse at the desk. Family only, she said. I'm his sister. She checked her charts. He's still in surgery, severe injuries. It'll be hours before we know anything. I sank into a chair in the waiting room. Hours passed. 4, 5. Dawn broke through the windows. Finally, a doctor emerged. Miss Lombardi? I shot to my feet. He's alive. Barely. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding. We've stabilized him, but... The doctor hesitated. He needs surgery we can't perform here. Specialized care. There's a facility in Switzerland that could save him. But the cost... How much? 200,000 euros. And he needs to be transferred within 48 hours. The world tilted. 200,000 euros. I didn't have 200 euros. There must be something. I'm sorry. Without payment, we can only provide basic care. He'll survive, but he'll never walk again. Never ride. The doctor left me standing there, drowning. I called everyone I could think of. Old friends, distant relatives, banks. No one could help. No one would. I was alone, just like always. I sat in that waiting room, watching Luca through the ICU window. Tubes everywhere, machines breathing for him, my baby brother, the kid who used to follow me everywhere, who dreamed bigger than both of us. I couldn't let him die broken, but I had no way to save him. Unless... I pulled out my phone, scrolled to the number Marco had given me. For emergencies, he'd said. This was an emergency. I dialed. Rafe answered on the second ring. Elena, it's 6 a.m. I need help. Silence. I'm at San Rafael Hospital. My brother, he's dying. He needs surgery I can't afford. 200,000 euros. I know I have no right to ask, but... I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up. I stared at my phone, not quite believing what just happened. True to his word, Rafe arrived exactly 20 minutes later. He strode through the hospital like he owned it, Marco and 2 other men flanking him. He found me in the waiting room. Show me, he said simply. I led him to the ICU window. He looked at Luca for a long moment, expression unreadable. Then he turned to Marco. Contact the Swiss facility. Make the arrangements. Full payment up front. I want him transferred today. Boss. Today, Marco. Marco nodded and walked away, phone already to his ear. I couldn't breathe. Rafe, I can't repay. You work for me now. That means your family is under my protection. His eyes met mine. Consider it part of your employment benefits. But the way he said it, the way he looked at me, told me this was more than business. This was personal. Why? I whispered. His hand cupped my face. Gentle, too gentle for a man like him. Because you asked. That was all he said. By noon, Luca was on a private medical transport to Switzerland. The best surgeons, the best facility, everything handled. I stood in the hospital parking lot, watching the ambulance disappear, and realized something terrifying. I owed Rafe everything now. Not just money, not just loyalty. Everything. 3 days later, the Swiss doctors called. Luca's surgery was successful. He'd walk again, ride again. He had his future back. Because of Rafe. I tried to thank him, tried to express what he'd done. He waved it off. Your brother lives. That's payment enough. But I knew better. Nothing in his world was free. And sure enough, that night, he called me to the villa. There's an event tomorrow, he said when I arrived at his study. A negotiation with some of our Eastern European partners. I need you there. Why me? Because you understand numbers, and because I trust you to see what others might miss. Trust. From a man who trusted no one. It felt heavier than it should. The next evening, I wore another dress he'd provided. This one was black. Elegant, but severe. Business armor. Marco drove us to a private estate outside the city. Smaller than the Corsini gathering. More intimate, more dangerous. Inside, men with thick accents and cold eyes sat around a table. Russians, I realized, discussing shipments and routes and percentages. Rafe gestured for me to sit beside him. Elena will review the numbers, he announced. Make sure everything is accurate. One of the Russians, a man with a scar across his neck, sneered. You bring a woman to negotiations? I bring someone who can count, Rafe replied coolly. Can you? The room went silent. Tension crackled. The Russian's jaw tightened, but he pushed a file across the table. The numbers are there, 40-60 split, as agreed. I opened the file, scanned the documents. Something was wrong. The percentages didn't match the shipment weights, off by just enough to skim millions over time. Clever. Hidden. But there. I leaned close to Rafe, whispered in his ear. His expression didn't change, but his eyes darkened. There's a discrepancy, Rafe said, voice deadly calm. There's no... Shut up. Rafe pulled out his phone, showed them something. My accountant just found it. You're shorting us by 12%, hidden in the weight calculations. The Russians exchanged glances. Scarred neck tried to bluster. That's an accounting error. Rafe's gun was on the table before anyone could blink. Try again. Silence. Then slowly, Scarred neck nodded. Fine. 50-50, as originally agreed. 60-40, in our favor, for wasting my time. Another tense pause. Agreed. Rafe holstered his gun. Pleasure doing business. We left 20 minutes later, new contracts signed. In the car, Rafe turned to me. You just saved us 5 million euros. I shrugged, trying to hide how hard my hands were shaking. Just numbers. Just numbers that could have started a war. His eyes held mine. You are more valuable than you realize, Elena. Something shifted in his gaze. Heat. Hunger. I looked away, pulse racing. Take her home, Rafe told Marco. Then quieter to me. Get some rest. You've earned it. But as Marco drove me back to my apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just crossed another line. I wasn't just working for Rafe anymore. I was becoming part of his world, his weapon, his asset, and maybe, terrifyingly, something more. It happened 2 weeks after the Russian deal. I was working late in my office at the villa, reviewing new accounts, when the door opened. Rafe walked in. He looked different, disheveled. His shirt was unbuttoned at the collar. Sleeves rolled up. Hair messier than usual, like he'd been running his hands through it. Still here? He asked. Finishing the Genoa reports. He crossed to the window, stared out at the dark gardens. Silence stretched. "Something wrong?" I finally asked. "Ricci made a move tonight, hit one of our shipments, killed 3 of my men." My chest tightened. "I'm sorry." "War is coming, full scale. The families will choose sides." He turned to face me. "You should leave Milan. I can arrange protection somewhere else, Switzerland, maybe France." "What? No." "Elena, no." I stood, anger flaring. "You don't get to decide that. I'm not running. This isn't your fight. You made it my fight when you pulled me into this world." My voice rose. "When you saved my brother. When you made me part of your business. I'm here now, Rafe. You don't get to push me away when things get dangerous." His jaw clenched. "You don't understand what's coming." "Then explain it to me." He crossed the room in 2 strides, grabbed my arms. His grip was firm, almost desperate. "Men will die. Lots of them. Ricci will come for me, for everyone I care about. And if he finds out about you, what you mean—" He stopped abruptly. "What I mean?" I whispered. His eyes were wild, tormented. "You shouldn't be here," he said roughly. "You should hate me, fear me, run from me." Maybe I should. My voice was barely audible. But I don't. Something broke in him. His mouth crashed onto mine. The kiss was violent, desperate. Years of control shattering in an instant. His hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer. I gasped against his lips, and he took the opportunity to deepen the kiss. I should have pushed him away. Should have remembered every reason this was wrong. But I kissed him back just as desperately. My hands fisted in his shirt. His arm wrapped around my waist, lifting me onto the desk. Papers scattered. The laptop tumbled to the floor. Neither of us cared. His lips moved to my neck. I arched against him, a soft sound escaping my throat. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against my skin. "Don't stop." His hand slid up my thigh. Then he froze, pulled back abruptly. "This is a mistake." His voice was ragged. "Rafe." "This is a mistake," he repeated, stepping away. "You need to leave." "Are you serious right now?" "Leave, Elena." The rejection stung worse than anything he'd said before, because this time I'd felt it, felt him wanting me, felt the possibility of something real between us, and he was throwing it away. "Why?" I demanded. "Why do you keep pushing me away?" His back was to me now, shoulders rigid. "Because you deserve better than this, better than me. That's not your decision to make. It's the only decision I can make." He turned, and the look in his eyes shattered me. Agony. Self-hatred. "Everyone I've ever cared about ends up dead, Elena. My mother, my sister. I won't add you to that list." My breath caught. "You had a sister?" His expression closed off. "Go home." "Rafe. Now." I left. But this time, I was done accepting his rejections, because I'd seen the truth in his eyes. He didn't push me away because he didn't want me. He pushed me away because he did. And he was terrified of what that meant. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept replaying the kiss, the way his hands felt on me, the desperation in his voice. Everyone I've ever cared about ends up dead. What happened to his sister? I spent the next day digging through what limited access I had, found mentions in old family records. Gabriella Vicini. Died 10 years ago, age 17. No details, just a death certificate. But the timing lined up with something else. A massacre. The Ricci family had attacked a Vicini safe house, killed everyone inside, including Gabriella. Rafe had been there, survived, but his sister hadn't, and he'd been blaming himself ever since. My heart ached for him, for the boy who'd lost everything and became the monster everyone feared. But he wasn't a monster. He was broken, just like me. And maybe, just maybe, we could put each other back together. If he'd let me. Rafe avoided me for 3 days, changed his routine, sent Marco with instructions instead of delivering them himself. I barely saw him. But on the 4th day, everything changed. I was in my office when Marco appeared, face grim. "Boss wants to see you. Now." Something in his tone made my stomach drop. I followed him to Rafe's private study, a room I'd never been allowed in. Dark wood, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a desk that looked like it had witnessed centuries of family secrets. Rafe stood by the window. He didn't turn when I entered. "Close the door," he said quietly. I did. Silence stretched, heavy, suffocating. "I found your father," he finally said. My heart stopped. "What?" "Antonio Lombardi. I know where he is." "Is he alive?" "Yes." Relief crashed through me. "Where? I need to see him." "You can't." Rafe turned. His face was carefully blank. "Because he's in my custody. Has been for the past 6 months." The room tilted. You've had him this whole time?" "Yes." Rage exploded in my chest. "You let me think he was dead. Let me search. Let me suffer." "I had my reasons." "What reasons could possibly justify—" "He didn't just steal from my family, Elena." Rafe's voice was cold, flat. "He orchestrated the attack that killed my sister." The words hit like bullets. "No." "That's not true." "It is." Rafe pulled a file from his desk, threw it at me. "Read it." With shaking hands, I opened the file. Documents, photographs, bank transfers, all pointing to one conclusion. Antonio Lombardi had fed information to the Ricci family, location of the safe house, security details, everything they needed, in exchange for 3 million euros and safe passage out of Italy. 20 people died in that attack, including Gabriella. "No." My voice broke. "He wouldn't." "He did. And when I found out, I made sure he disappeared. Been keeping him in a cell beneath this villa ever since." I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. My father, the man who raised me, was a traitor. A murderer. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you deserve to know the truth. And because—" Rafe's jaw tightened. "You need to understand why us, can never work." "What?" "Your father killed my sister. That blood stands between us. Always will." Tears burned my eyes. "So what? You've been using me? Keeping me close as some kind of revenge?" "No." The word was sharp, pained. "I kept you close because I couldn't stay away, even knowing who you are, what your blood represents. I tried, Elena. I tried to push you away, but I can't." He crossed to me, cupped my face in his hands. "I can't," he whispered again. "Then don't." Tears spilled over. My father's sins aren't mine. I didn't know. I never would have. "I know." His thumb brushed away my tears. "But it doesn't change what happened. Doesn't erase the past. So we're just trapped by something that happened before we even met?" "Yes." The unfairness of it crashed over me. I pulled away from him. "I want to see him. My father." "Elena, I want to see him. Now." Rafe studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Follow me." He led me through the villa. Downstairs I didn't know existed, into a basement that smelled of stone and dampness. Guard nodded at Rafe, unlocked a heavy door. Inside was a cell. Small, basic. And in the corner, sitting on a cot, was Antonio Lombardi, my father. He looked older, thinner, broken. When he saw me, his face crumpled. "Elena." I couldn't speak, could barely look at him. "You're alive," he whispered. "Thank God. I thought, when I heard you were working for Vocini, I thought he'd kill you to hurt me." "Did you do it?" My voice was ice. Did you betray the Vocinis? Get those people killed? His silence was answer enough. Why? I was in debt. Deep. The Corsinis were going to kill me. Ricci offered a way out. I didn't know. I didn't think. You didn't think 20 people would die? I stepped closer to the bars. Including a 17-year-old girl? He flinched. It was supposed to be a robbery. Just stealing documents. I didn't know they'd... You sold information to the family's enemies. What did you think would happen? Tears streamed down his face. I was desperate. Scared. I made a mistake. A mistake that cost innocent lives. That destroyed families. That... I choked on the words. That destroyed any chance I had at something real with the one person who actually gave a damn about me. Elena, please, you're not my father anymore. The words felt final, heavy. You're just a coward who ran, and I'm done paying for your sins. I turned to leave. Elena, wait. I didn't look back. Rafe stood in the corridor, watching, waiting. I'm sorry you had to see that, he said quietly. Don't be. I met his eyes. I needed to know the truth, all of it. What now? Now? I took a breath. Now I choose. Not my father, not his legacy. I choose who I want to be. And who's that? I stepped closer to him. Someone who doesn't run from what she wants, even when it's dangerous, even when it's complicated. His eyes darkened. Elena. My father's choices aren't mine, Rafe. His blood doesn't define me. And if you can't see that, if you can't see me, then maybe you're the coward. I walked past him, back up the stairs, left him standing in the dark, because I was done begging him to let me in. If he wanted me, really wanted me, he'd have to fight for it. The war started 2 days later. I was in my apartment when the call came. Marco. Voice tight. Get to the villa, now. We're under attack. The line went dead. My hands shook as I grabbed my jacket, ran to the street, flagged a cab. The Vicini estate, fast. The driver's eyes widened. I know what it is. Drive. 20 minutes felt like hours. When we pulled up to the gates, chaos greeted me. Men with guns, shattered windows, the smell of smoke and gunfire. Marco met me at the entrance, blood on his shirt. You shouldn't be here, he said. Where's Rafe? Inside, coordinating defense. Ricci hit 3 of our locations simultaneously. This is all-out war. How many casualties? 5 dead, dozen wounded. Could have been worse. I pushed past him, into the villa. Men rushed everywhere, shouting orders, loading weapons. The elegant house had become a war zone. I found Rafe in the command center, a room I'd never seen before, monitors everywhere, maps spread across tables. He was on the phone, barking orders in rapid Italian. When he saw me, fury flashed across his face. He ended the call, crossed to me in 3 strides. What the hell are you doing here? Making sure you're alive. This isn't your fight. Yes, it is. I grabbed his shirt. You made it my fight. You don't get to push me away now. Something shifted in his eyes, but before he could respond, an explosion rocked the building. Rafe shoved me to the ground, covering me with his body. Dust and debris rained down. When the shaking stopped, he pulled me up. Basement now. No, that's an order. But I didn't move. I'm not hiding while you fight. I can help. Elena, I know your accounts, your resources. I know which families owe you favors. Let me coordinate reinforcements while you handle the front line. He stared at me, jaw tight, then nodded. Marco, get her set up in the communications room. Full access. Boss, do it. The next 6 hours were a blur. I worked the phones, called in every favor Rafe had, coordinated shipments of weapons and men from allied families, tracked Ricci's movements through our network. Around midnight, we got word. Ricci had pulled back, retreated to his own territory. The attack was over. We'd won. Barely. I found Rafe in his study. He was washing blood off his hands. Not all of it his, I realized. It's done, I said quietly. Ricci's men are regrouping. We have 12 hours, maybe less, before the next wave. He dried his hands, didn't look at me. You should have stayed away. But I didn't. You could have died, Elena. So could you. He finally turned. His eyes were haunted, exhausted. This is my world. Violence, death, it never ends. I know. And you still want to be part of it? I crossed to him, stood close enough to feel his heat. I want to be part of you, whatever that means. His hand came up, traced my jaw. You're insane. Probably. His lips quirked, almost a smile. Then sirens wailed outside. We both tensed. Marco burst through the door. Police! Someone tipped them off about the attack. They're raiding the estate. Rafe cursed. Get Elena out. Back entrance. Now. What about you? I'll handle this. He looked at me. Go? Before they find you here? Rafe! Go! Marco grabbed my arm, pulled me toward a hidden passage I didn't know existed. But I looked back, saw Rafe standing alone in his study, preparing to face whatever came next. And I realized something terrifying. I loved him, loved this dangerous, broken, impossible man. And I wasn't going anywhere. The police raid changed everything. They couldn't pin anything on Rafe. He was too careful. But the pressure was mounting. Ricci had connections in law enforcement, was using them to strangle the Vicini operations. Shipments seized, accounts frozen, men arrested. The family was bleeding. I spent every waking hour working the problem, finding workarounds, rerouting money through shell corporations, keeping the business alive while Rafe fought on multiple fronts. We worked side by side, sometimes through the night, barely speaking except about business. But the tension between us grew. Every accidental touch, every lingering look, every moment alone. It was only a matter of time before something broke. It happened 3 weeks after the raid. We were in his study, 2 a.m, exhausted, frustrated. The Corsini family is wavering, I said, staring at the reports. They might switch sides. Back Ricci. Then we lose the northern roots. Unless we give them a reason to stay loyal. Like what? I hesitated. A marriage alliance. Rafe's eyes snapped to mine. What? It's what they're waiting for. Proof that the Vicini family is stable, that you're building a future, not just fighting a war. You're suggesting I marry? I'm suggesting you consider all options. His jaw clenched. And who exactly would I marry? The question hung between us. Dangerous. Loaded. Someone they'd respect, I said carefully. Someone who understands the business, who's already proven valuable. Elena, it's just an option. He stood, paced to the window. Tension radiated off him. You don't know what you're suggesting. Don't I? He turned. Marriage in my world isn't romance. It's politics, strategy, a cage. Maybe for some people. For everyone. He crossed to me, stopped inches away. I won't trap you like that. What if I'm already trapped? I whispered. What if I don't want a way out? His eyes searched mine. You should. I know. I reached up, touched his face. But I don't. This time, when he kissed me, it wasn't desperate or violent. It was inevitable. His hands cupped my face as if I were something precious. Breakable. I melted into him, into the heat and the promise and the impossibility of us. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. If we do this, he murmured, there's no going back. You'll be mine, completely. and I don't share. I don't want you to. Elena, I love you. The words spilled out. Raw. Honest. I know I shouldn't. I know it's complicated and dangerous and probably insane. But I do. I love you, Rafe. He closed his eyes, like the words physically hurt him. You can't. Too late. When he opened his eyes again, they were molten, fierce. If I do this, if I make you mine, I won't let you go. Ever. Good. He kissed me again, harder this time, claiming, and I let him, because I was already his, had been since the moment he rejected me in that warehouse. Some things are just meant to be, even when they're forged in darkness. The next morning, Rafe called a meeting with the family heads. I stood beside him as he announced his decision. Elena Lombardi will be my wife. The marriage will take place in 2 weeks. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me personally. Silence. Then slowly, Don Corsini stood. The Vocini family chooses well. We support this alliance. One by one, the others agreed. We'd bought their loyalty, at the cost of my freedom. Except I didn't feel trapped. I felt powerful. Because I wasn't just Rafe's wife-to-be. I was his equal, his partner. And together, we were unstoppable. The wedding was supposed to be a show of strength. Instead, it became a battlefield. We held it at the Vocini estate. Security everywhere. Every family represented. It should have been safe. But Ricci had other plans. I was in the bridal suite, putting on the dress, white silk and lace, beautiful and suffocating, when Marco burst in. Armed men at the south gate, Ricci's crew, dozens of them. My heart stopped. Rafe? Coordinating defense. He wants you in the safe room. No. Elena. No. I grabbed the gun Rafe had given me weeks ago, made sure it was loaded. I'm not hiding. Not today. Marco's eyes widened, then he smiled. Grim, proud. Boss chose well. We ran downstairs. Chaos erupted. Gunfire shattered windows. Guests screamed. Men in suits pulled weapons, transforming from politicians to soldiers in seconds. I found Rafe in the main hall, gun in hand, barking orders. When he saw me, fury and fear warred in his eyes. I told you to hide! When have I ever done what you told me? Another explosion rocked the villa. Rafe grabbed my hand. Stay close. Don't be a hero. Same to you. We fought side by side through the chaos. I wasn't a soldier. Wasn't trained. But adrenaline and desperation made me sharp. I shot twice, hit once. Enough to slow an attacker coming at Rafe's blind side. He glanced back. Something fierce and proud flashed across his face. Then we were moving again, through smoke and bullets and blood. We reached the command center. Rafe pulled up surveillance feeds. Ricci's at the West Wing, 30 men. He's going for the vault. It's a distraction, I said, staring at the screens. Look, East Wing is barely defended. He's going to circle back through there, trap us. Rafe's eyes widened. You're right. He grabbed the radio. Marco, East Wing, now. But before Marco could respond, the door burst open. Vincenzo Ricci stood there, gun raised. Vocini, finally. Rafe moved in front of me, shielding. This is between us, Rafe said coldly. Let everyone else walk. Everyone else doesn't matter. Ricci's eyes flicked to me. But her? She matters. I can see it. The great Nero finally found something worth dying for. Touch her, and I'll burn your entire family to ash. Ricci laughed. Empty threats. You're finished, Vocini. Your men are scattered. Your allies are wavering. This ends today. You're right. Rafe's voice dropped. Lethal. It does. He moved faster than I could track, knocked Ricci's gun aside. They crashed together, brutal and efficient. I raised my own gun, but couldn't get a clear shot. They were too close, moving too fast. Then Ricci got the upper hand, pinned Rafe against the wall, gun to his head. Any last words? Yes. Rafe smiled, cold, vicious. You should have checked for a second gun. I fired. The bullet hit Ricci's shoulder. He stumbled. Rafe twisted the gun from his grip and slammed him to the ground. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Years of war. Decades of bloodshed. It all came down to this. It's over, Rafe said quietly. Then he pulled the trigger. The silence after the gunshot was deafening. Ricci's body slumped, lifeless. Rafe stood, looked at me. You okay? I nodded. Couldn't speak. He crossed to me, pulled me into his arms. It's done, he whispered into my hair. It's finally done. Around us, the sounds of fighting died. Ricci's men, hearing their leader was dead, surrendered or fled. The war was over. We'd won. An hour later, I stood in the ruined ballroom, still in my blood-stained wedding dress. Rafe appeared beside me, also covered in blood and soot and the aftermath of violence. Hell of a wedding, I said. Could have been worse. I laughed, slightly hysterical. How? We could have lost. He had a point. What happens now? I asked. Now? He took my hand. We finished what we started. You want to get married? Today? Like this? Especially like this. His eyes held mine. Because this is us, Elena. Violence and chaos and somehow still standing. I'm not waiting another second to make you mine. Tears burned my eyes. You're insane. You love me anyway. I really do. He pulled me close, kissed me softly, a promise. Then turned to the room, to the families and soldiers and survivors. Padre Matteo, you still here? An elderly priest emerged from the crowd, looking shaken but alive. I'm here, Rafe. Then let's do this. Now. The priest blinked. In the middle of all this destruction? Especially in the middle of it. Rafe looked at me. We're forged in fire, Elena and I. Might as well make it official in the ashes. So we did. Standing in a ruined ballroom, surrounded by blood and broken glass and people who'd just survived a war, we got married. No flowers, no music, no pretense, just us. And the promise that we'd face whatever came next together. When Padre Matteo said, "You may kiss the bride," Rafe pulled me close. You're mine now, he murmured against my lips. I always was. The kiss tasted like smoke and survival, and something that might have been redemption. Later, when the bodies were removed and the guests had left and the villa was quiet again, Rafe led me to his private quarters. I have something for you, he said. He opened a safe, pulled out a file. Your father's confession. Everything he did, everyone he betrayed, and his official pardon. I stared. Pardon? He'll never be free, but he'll live, comfortable, safe, away from all this. Rafe's eyes held mine. You get to choose, Elena. Justice or mercy, his life is in your hands. My throat tightened. I thought about my father, his choices, his sins, and I thought about Rafe, about the man who'd been consumed by revenge for 10 years, who'd finally found something more important. Mercy, I whispered. He gets mercy. Rafe nodded. I'll arrange it. He'll be transferred to a private facility tomorrow. You can visit, or not. That's up to you. Thank you. He cupped my face. You gave me mercy when I deserved none. It's only fair I pass it on. You deserved it. You deserve everything, Rafe. I have everything. His thumb traced my cheek. I have you. He kissed me then, soft and deep and full of promise, and for the first time in as long as I could remember, I felt safe. Not because the danger was gone, it never would be, but because I wasn't facing it alone anymore. 6 months later, I stood in the gardens behind the villa, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of blood and gold. The families were united. Ricci's empire had been absorbed. The Vicini name was stronger than ever. And I was part of it all. Not as property, not as a pawn, as Rafe's equal, his partner, his wife. Arms wrapped around me from behind. I leaned into his warmth. "What are you thinking?" Rafe murmured against my hair. "That I never expected my life to turn out like this. Regrets? Not one." He turned me to face him. His eyes, those midnight storm eyes that had terrified me once, were soft now, at peace. "You saved me," he said quietly. "I was drowning in darkness, in revenge, in all the blood I'd spilled. And then you walked into that warehouse, refusing to flinch, refusing to break. You became the light I didn't know I needed." "You saved me too," I whispered. "I was just surviving. You taught me how to live." "Even if living is dangerous?" "Especially then." He smiled, real, unguarded, then pulled a small box from his pocket. "One more thing." Inside was a ring, not the wedding band I already wore, something else, a signet ring, the Vicini crest engraved in the metal. "This belonged to my sister," Rafe said. "She was supposed to lead the family with me. Before," he paused, "I want you to have it, not as decoration, but as a symbol. You're not just my wife, Elena. You're the other half of this empire, equal in everything." Tears blurred my vision. "Rafe." He slipped it onto my finger beside my wedding band. "We're building something new," he said. "Not just an empire, a legacy, one that honors the dead but doesn't drown in their blood, one where love and violence can coexist, where darkness has light. Together," I said. "Always together." He kissed me as the sun set, as the darkness crept in. But we weren't afraid of the dark anymore. We'd made it ours. His rejection had hit like a blade to the throat. But in the end, that rejection became the beginning of us, the beginning of redemption. For a man who thought he was beyond saving, and a woman who refused to let him fall. Some love stories are written in roses and promises. Ours was written in blood and bullets, and the stubborn refusal to give up on each other. And I wouldn't change a single moment, because in the darkness, we found light. In the violence, we found peace. In each other, we found home. He rejected her without mercy, but she became his redemption anyway. Because some connections can't be broken, not by blood, not by violence, not by the weight of the past. And in the end, love isn't about being perfect. It's about being perfectly imperfect together.
Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support helps me bring you even more emotional, heartwarming stories filled with love, tension, and unforgettable moments. Stay tuned. More beautiful stories are on the way.